Everybody tells you the Odyssey is the story of a man trying to get home. Here's what it actually is: a 20-year gauntlet in which every creature, every force, and every strange power between Troy and Ithaca lined up to stop one man from walking through his own front door. Some wanted to kill him. Some wanted to transform him. Some wanted to make him forget his own name. And some, the truly dangerous ones, offered him paradise if he'd just stop trying. I'm the Muse. I was there for all of it, and I've had 3,000 years to rank these things. So today, that's exactly what we're doing. Every monster Odysseus faced, in order, from the first to the last. I'll tell you which ones I think are overrated, which ones the poets criminally forgot, and which one racked up a body count nobody talks about. And stick around, because here's my honest opinion, and I'll defend it at the end. The worst monster in the whole poem didn't have 6 heads. It had a name, a family, and a very good reason to know better. Let's count them. The first threat on the whole journey has no fangs.
No clothes. No army.
It's a flower. And it might be the scariest one on the list, which is a sentence I do not say lightly. After the storm that blew the fleet off course, Odysseus anchors on an unknown coast and sends 3 men inland to scout. The locals, the lotus eaters, don't attack. They don't even raise their voices. They just offer the scouts something to eat. A lotus flower. And whoever eats it forgets. Not everything. That's the clever, horrible part. They forget one specific thing: home. Ithaca goes quiet in their heads. Their families dissolve. The entire desire to leave just evaporates. The 3 men want to sit on that beach forever, perfectly content. No homesickness, no hurry, no reason on earth to stand up. Odysseus has to drag them back to the ships by force. And they're weeping while he does it, not because they're being taken, but because they're being taken away from the flower. He chains them under the rowing benches and gets out of there before anyone else takes a bite. So think about what the very first monster of the Odyssey actually is. It's not a giant. It's not a beast. It's forgetting. It's peace that isn't peace. It's just absence, dressed up as contentment. The desire to stop desiring. And Odysseus beat it, but only by tearing his own men away from something they chose. Nasty little flower. I rank it terrifying. Moving on. The famous one. The one every retelling opens with. And my professional opinion, the most overrated as a monster and the most important as a mistake. Because Polyphemus doesn't ruin Odysseus by being strong. He ruins him because Odysseus can't keep his mouth shut. Here's the setup you know. Polyphemus is a son of Poseidon, god of the sea, lord of every single road Odysseus has to cross to get home. So blinding this Cyclops isn't just beating a giant. It's declaring war on the ocean itself. Remember that. It's the whole engine of the plot. Odysseus takes 12 men into the cave. Polyphemus rolls a boulder across the door, lights his fire, spots the intruders, and eats 2 of them before bed. Next morning, 2 more. That night, 2 more. 12 men go in. 6 come out. The escape is genuinely brilliant. I'll give the man that. A stake of olive wood, sharpened and fire-hardened. The strongest wine in the ship's hold. Odysseus gets the giant drunk. 1 cup, then another. Then the giant topples. And the burning stake goes straight into that single eye. When the other Cyclopes hear the screaming and shout, "Who did this to you?" Polyphemus roars back the name Odysseus gave him. Nobody. And they shrug and wander off. If nobody hurt you, it's the will of the gods. Good night. The men escape strapped under the bellies of the sheep. Flawless. And then he throws it all away. Ship pulling safely out to sea, and Odysseus cannot resist standing up on the deck and screaming his real name back at the island. Odysseus, son of Laertes, of Ithaca. For the credit, for the applause. And Polyphemus lifts his blind face and prays to Daddy Poseidon. Let this man never reach home. Or if he must, let him come late, alone, on a stranger's ship, and find nothing but grief waiting. Poseidon heard. And that curse is basically a plot summary of the next 10 years. The Cyclops didn't beat Odysseus. Odysseus's ego did. File that. Now here's the one that makes me furious on their behalf, because this is the deadliest episode in the entire Odyssey, and almost nobody has heard of it. After the Cyclops, the fleet reaches a coast with a beautiful harbor, a deep cove, tall cliffs on both sides, a narrow mouth. Perfect shelter. 11 of the 12 ships sail right in and drop anchor inside the calm water. And here is the single smartest thing Odysseus does in the whole poem. He doesn't go in. He ties his ship up outside, on the exposed rock alone. Some instinct told him a harbor that perfect was too good. 3 men scout inland. They meet a giant girl fetching water. She cheerfully takes them home to her father, Antiphates, king of the Laestrygonians, who eats one of them on the spot. The other 2 run. And then the giants come, all of them, pouring down off those cliffs with boulders. They don't board the ships. They sink them, right there in the harbor, and as the men try to swim for the narrow mouth, the giants spear them out of the water like fish in a barrel. 11 ships, 11 crews, gone in minutes, inside that gorgeous, sheltering cove. Odysseus cuts his ropes and rows like the sea is on fire, and does not look back. He left Troy with 12 ships and hundreds of men. He leaves this beach with 1 ship.
1.
The Laestrygonians have no cult.
No temples.
They barely appear in Greek art. But on the body count, the actual arithmetic of the dead, no creature in the Odyssey killed more people, faster, with less drama. And the lesson costs a fleet. Sometimes the most lethal thing in the world is the one that looks like safe harbor. Underrated monster. Massively. Justice for the Laestrygonians. Then comes a stretch where Odysseus doesn't fight a monster at all. He faces the dead, and it might be the one that changed him most. Circe sent him, told him he had to consult the blind prophet Tiresias to learn the way back to Ithaca. So he sails to the very edge of the world, past the river that circles the earth, to a place where the sun never shines. He digs a pit, pours the blood of sacrifice, and waits. And the shades come, crowds of them, pressing toward the blood, because a mouthful of it lets them speak and think for a moment. He has to hold the whole desperate mob back with his sword until the one ghost he needs arrives. Tiresias drinks and tells him everything. The sacred cattle of the sun he must not touch, the suitors already circling his house, and the shape of his own death, gentle from the sea, in old age, far from war, but a great deal of suffering first. And then the part that undoes him. His mother comes to the blood. She died while he was at Troy. He didn't even know. He tries to hold her. 3 times. 3 times she slips through his arms like smoke. This is how it is for all the dead, she tells him. The sinews no longer hold the bones. We are only this now, shadow. He speaks to Agamemnon, murdered by his own wife the day he got home from the same war, which is not a comforting thing for a man sailing home from that same war to hear. And he speaks to Achilles, who says the line that outlives everyone. He would rather be the lowest slave among the living than king over all the dead. In the end, Odysseus runs. The crowd of the dead grows too thick. The screams of Tartarus rise from below, and he's suddenly terrified the Gorgon will lift her face out of the dark. He bolts for the ship. He went down there not for treasure, but for information, which, as anyone who's ever needed it knows, is the most expensive thing there is. Halfway down the list, 4 monsters down, 4 to go, and the twist still coming. If you're enjoying the rankings, do the thing, hit like. It genuinely shoves this in front of more people who argue about Greek monsters for fun, and those are my people. And subscribe, I sing a new one of these constantly, and I promise the second half has the whirlpool, the 6-headed nightmare, and my controversial pick for worst monster in the whole poem. But tell me now, before the reveal, which one so far would have gotten you? The flower that makes you forget home? The cannibal harbor? Be honest in the comments, I read them. Being talked about is the entire job.
Okay.
Back to the sea. Forget the fish women. That's a much later invention, and frankly a downgrade. In the original Greek, the sirens are women's faces on the bodies of birds, winged things on a small island, ringed by the bones and rotting flesh of every sailor who stopped to listen.
Harming velkomot.
But here's what actually made them lethal, and it wasn't a pretty voice. It was the content of the song. The sirens knew everything. They sang the Trojan War back to you in perfect detail. Every battle, every hero, every moment you lived through. They sang your own past, your own glories, the people you'd lost. They didn't promise pleasure. They promised knowledge. And to men who'd fought 10 years and lost everything, hearing your own story sung back with flawless precision is the most irresistible bait there is. Circe warned him. So Odysseus plugs his rowers' ears with beeswax. They hear nothing, and has himself lashed to the mast, tight, with strict orders. No matter what I scream, do not untie me. And then he listens. The only man who ever heard the sirens and lived. The moment the island comes into view, he's shrieking, begging, ordering the crew to cut him loose. And the deaf crew just rows harder, and 2 of them tie the ropes tighter. The island falls behind, and nobody ever learned what the sirens sang to him. He never told. No text records it. Whatever that song said, whatever drove him that frantic, it stayed between him and the mast. Which, if you ask me, is the most haunting thing in the whole poem. Sometimes the deadliest danger isn't the one that wants to eat you. It's the one that makes you desperate to stop, right here, and never move again. Scylla. 6 heads, 12 dangling feet, 3 rows of teeth in every mouth, tucked in a cliff cave over a strait you are simply required to sail through. There's no avoiding her without steering into Charybdis on the other side, so this is the definition of a bad menu. Circe laid out the choice with chilling calm. Hug Charybdis, and you can lose the whole ship. Hug Scylla, and you lose 6 men, 1 per head, but the ship lives. Pass close to Scylla. Pay the toll. And Odysseus makes a decision I think about a lot. He doesn't tell the crew. He knows if he warns them, they'll panic and stop rowing clean. So he stands on the deck in full armor with 2 spears, staring up at the cliff, waiting to see the heads come down so he can fight them.
He never sees them.
The time he spends looking up is exactly the opening Scylla needed. 6 heads drop. 6 men are ripped straight off their rowing benches. He watches them hauled up into the air, hears them screaming his name, sees their arms stretched down toward the ship as they're carried into the cave above. He wrote that it was the most pitiful thing he saw in all his wanderings. Not the Cyclops, not the cannibals. This, because he knew them. They were his, and there was nothing he could do. He passed Scylla a second time later, alone, on a raft of wreckage. The heads didn't come down. Sometimes the monster only strikes when there's something to gain.
Cold.
Efficient. I respect it and I hate it. Charybdis isn't a creature with a shape. She's a force. A whirlpool that 3 times a day swallows the sea whole, literally drags the ocean down into nothing, and 3 times spits it back up in foam and fury. And Odysseus beat her twice. 2 completely different ways, which is why she's higher on my list than she probably is on yours. First pass, he took the Scylla side of the strait, the 6-man toll, and the crew rowed through with the ship intact.
Fine.
Survivable. The second time was a nightmare. Zeus had already smashed the ship with a thunderbolt after the crew ate the sun god's sacred cattle, the one thing they were explicitly forbidden to do, and Odysseus was the only man left alive, clinging to the broken keel and mast, adrift for 9 days. On the 10th, the current dragged him right back into the strait, and Charybdis was open. The vortex was down, swallowing the sea, and his little raft of wreckage was heading straight for it. No ship.
No ours.
Nothing but a wild fig tree growing out of the cliff above the whirlpool. So Odysseus leaps and grabs the branches and hangs there like a bat over the void, dangling above nothing, while the pieces of his raft get sucked down beneath his feet.
And he waits.
He just hangs on and waits. And when Charybdis finally vomits the sea back up, the keel, the mast, he lets go, drops onto the wreckage, paddles with his bare hands, and gets out. He survived the thing that eats the ocean. Once with a ship and a crew. Once with a fig tree and his own 2 hands. That's the pick I'll die on.
So,
Odysseus survived a people made of forgetting. A giant fathered by the sea god himself. The worst massacre in the poem. The kingdom of the dead. Creatures that sang with the knowledge of everything. A 6-headed horror. A whirlpool that swallowed the sea. And then he got home and found 108 men. The suitors aren't monsters in the obvious way. They're nobles, warriors, men with names, families, land. But here's the ledger of what they did in the years they spent waiting for Odysseus to be declared dead. They ate his herds, drank his wine, occupied his palace, harassed his serving women, plotted to murder his son, and pressured his wife to marry one of them. For years, with total impunity, inside his own house. When he finally walked back in disguised as a beggar, they insulted him, humiliated him, threw things at him in his own hall. Nobody knew it was him. He took it. He watched. He counted. The plan was Penelope's, the execution was his. The contest of the bow, the doors barred, armed men with no way out. He killed the first suitor with an arrow through the throat as the man lifted his cup to drink. And then he didn't stop. Him, his son, and 2 loyal servants. For against more than 100. When it was over, the hall was a river. And here's the detail that gives me my whole thesis. He beat Scylla with grim acceptance. He beat Charybdis with patience. He resisted the sirens with rope and wax. Every inhuman thing. He outthought, outwaited, outendured. The suitors he killed with rage. No escape plan, no negotiation, no clever trick, just fury he'd swallowed for years. Because Polyphemus, Scylla, Charybdis, they were what they were. Forces of nature, creatures of an impossible world. They didn't know better. But the suitors were men. They knew that hall belonged to someone else. They knew whose wife, whose son, whose cattle. And they stayed anyway. The one monster in the entire Odyssey that Odysseus killed without hesitation, without strategy, without a shred of mercy, was the human one. Told you I'd defend it. 20 years. 8 kinds of threat. Forgetting wrapped in a flower. A giant whose father owns the ocean. Cannibals who erased a fleet in minutes. The kingdom of the dead, and everything it had to say. A voice that knew everything you'd ever lost. A monster you can never see in time. A force that swallows the sea. And the men who took what was yours while your back was turned. He survived all of them. Not because he was invincible, because he understood that each one demanded a different thing. Speed with the Laestrygonians. Cunning with the Cyclops. Discipline with the sirens. Sheer patience with Charybdis. And with the suitors, years of held-back rage let loose at exactly the right moment. That's the secret the poem's been telling you the whole time. The Odyssey isn't a catalog of monsters. It's a manual on how different kinds of danger demand different kinds of answer. And the deadliest one, every time, is the one you mistake for safe harbor. So tell me I'm wrong. Which one tops your list? The flower, the harbor, the whirlpool, or the men? Leave a like if you enjoyed the rankings, subscribe for the next myth, and settle it for me in the comments. I'll be reading. I always am. Sung by the Muse. Cast in bronze.